Was Gucci, Big Rose back with another episode of On the One. Today is a quick one. I just want to break Commanders fans' hearts. We are not going to be getting Brandon Aiyuk, okay? Now, I know everybody saw the video earlier today, and if you didn't, it's essentially Brandon Aiyuk on FaceTime with Jaden Daniels, and it kind of starts in an awkward position, or in an awkward part of the video. But essentially, you just see Daniels and Aiyuk kind of chuckling, and then Aiyuk tells Daniels, they said they don't want me back, which everybody's implying that means he's talking about the 49ers, which is probably true, but I got to see the rest of the video. Sometimes they cut these things in a way that makes it look a certain way. And Daniels just says, that's it, and a question mark. And then Aiyuk says, I swear. So everybody's thinking, it could happen. Brandon Aiyuk to the Washington Commanders. Now, I'm here to tell y'all why it won't happen. And I kind of broke this down on my T. Higgins video. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. But it's essentially the same reason why we're not going to get him. We've just got some big contracts coming up. Some guys are going to have to get paid next year. Some guys are going to want to get paid next year, but Washington's going to have to make those choices. I think a lot is riding on this season. But essentially, the reason why Brandon Aiyuk is not getting the deal that he wants, which it's supposedly around $30 million, is he's just not $30 million good. I'm sorry to say it, Brandon Aiyuk, but he is just not. Now, I will say this, PFF, Pro Football Focus, had him ranked as the number 2 highest graded receiver last year, 2023. And I'll go through some of his stats, but essentially their ranking of it, and this is actually really good. He ranks 2nd in the NFL in yards per reception, which when you've got receivers like Tyreek Hill, when you've got receivers like Justin Jefferson, all these big time names, that's big time. Those are Deshaun Jackson numbers, right? For a guy that you wouldn't think of as fast or as quick or as elusive as Deshaun Jackson. And then also yards per target, 12.8. And that yards per reception was 17.9, so pretty high. Yards per target, 12.8. So those are actually pretty good. Now, last year, Brandon Aiyuk, 75 passes caught, 1,342 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. Not a bad season, not worth $30 million, okay? I apologize. Now, would I love to have this guy in Washington? Absolutely. Could Washington make it happen? Probably, but they would have to make some really tough decisions either this year, definitely next year. We would probably see maybe like a Daron Payne or a John Allen not be here anymore, some of our big-time players. But the reason why the 49ers are not bringing him back, so I looked through all of their expiring contracts this year and next year. They have got a lot coming up. So this year alone, at the end of 2024, over 35, I think it was like 36 contracts expiring at the end of this year. Now, they've got some pretty big time names. We're talking Charvarius Ward, their cornerback, Drake Greenlaw. Those are some of the household names. But like I said, 35, you're not going to replace 35 players, right? A lot of those players are coming back. So that's going to eat into the cap space that you have. But in those 35 contracts, they've got 5 offensive linemen and 9 defensive backs, including Charvarius Ward at the end of this year. So a good chunk of those players are going to have to come back. Now, next year, this is where you've got the big boys. Now, this is where the 49ers are looking. Next year, you've got Kittle coming up. You've got Debo. You've got Brock Purdy. Those guys, those are not going to be cap-friendly contracts for any of those guys. So to pay Brandon Aiyuk $30 million this year, which, like I said, he was PFF's second-rated wide receiver this year. If we just go through his statistics, he really only came on 2023. 2022, I'll give it to him. Okay, fine. So if we go through it, when he got drafted, 2020, he was the 25th overall pick for the Niners in 2020. 60 receptions, 748 yards. You'll take that from a rookie. Not bad. 2021, 56 receptions, 826 yards, and he had 5 touchdowns that year as well as his rookie year. Not bad. You'll take that. 2022, he came up a little bit, 78 yards, 78 catches, 1,015 yards, 8 touchdowns. And then last year, 75 receptions, 1,342 yards, 7 touchdowns. Now, how these statistics rank, let's look at them. So for receptions last year, 75, he was tied for 31st out of all receivers. For yards, he was tied for 7th. Okay, that's top of the league, right? 7th, or tied for 18th with 7 touchdowns last year, so a little less than middle of the pack. So none of those stats really say $30 million receiver to me, but what I will say about Brandon Aiyuk, and just like Terry McLaurin, they're not the biggest guys, they're not the fastest guys. I think Aiyuk ran a 4.5, Terry McLaurin was a little faster, but they just make plays, man. They got hands. Brandon Aiyuk got a good radius. You just, every time you see him with the ball in his hands, he's doing something. So, you know, I'm excited to see how this goes. I'm excited to see what the 49ers do with him. But it's just going to be really interesting to see. I also do want to ask Commanders fans, what would you guys be willing to give up for Brandon Aiyuk? He was a first-round pick, 25th overall, so you would think that the 49ers were looking for that, but, you know, at some point, if you're really not able to make a deal with somebody, you're really almost ready to take anything that's feasible. But, yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know. Do you want Aiyuk here? Obviously, he'd help Jaden Daniels a lot, very similar to what we have already in Terry McLaurin. Do you not want him? Are you okay with, you know, us potentially losing another player if we do sign him? Or once again, what would you be willing to give up to get him here? But next time I'll be back to talk about Brandon Aiyuk will be if something breaks on him, if he re-signs, whatever it may be. Once again, the 49ers, they do not actually have to do anything with him, right? He is signed through 2024. He just wants that long-term security. So we'll see how this plays out. But whatever you guys want to let me know, anything you guys are thinking, holler back at me. I'll be back later with another episode of On the One. Holla.